Welcome back to another episode of the Easy Button Investor podcast with Tucker Merrihew and myself, Colbert Johnson. We actually are going under a bit of a name change of the podcast. Everything else we do has been under the Easy Button Leads brand with our core offer, the Deal Engine. So we're moving the podcast back that direction. The logo will look the same, everything will look the same, but it'll just be Easy Button Leads instead of Easy Button Investor when you guys are out there looking it up. So we got a great show for you guys today, but we're going to spend a little more time diving into any projects Tucker has going on that he wants to update us on. And I'll talk a little bit about what we have going on as well on my end and products and whatnot we're developing at EBL. So Tucker, I'll kick it over to you. What's going on in Tucker land, deals you're working on? I know you're knocking down homes left and right.
Yeah, we're trying. It's interesting when you get into the development side, the thing that nobody really thinks about, because a lot of people on the investor side, you hire a general contractor, right, to do most of the work until your business gets to the point where you become the general contractor or your company is licensed and you can kind of facilitate and manage a lot of the work legally yourself through their license. But when you are the GC, which I have been for, 16 years now, in the world of real estate, you end up having to deal with all these different municipalities and all of their different permitting challenges. And so one of the homes we're building right now, it'll probably be the most expensive home we've ever built once it's said and done. I mean, in terms of the sale price, hopefully. We're now building it within the city of Naples, which I think I mentioned on last show. And it's just been a real interesting learning the different processes. And that's why I think a lot of investors, they get scared to even pull permits because they don't want to deal with the city or the county or whatever the municipality is they got to go through. And at this point in my career, I mean, it's like, okay, I understand that to some extent, but it's like you gotta run it like a real business and make sure things are getting done right also. But when you build a new house, there is no skirting the permit process. You have to go through every single permit and every single inspection. And so you get to know this process really well. So this last week has been a hell of a week, learning experience wise, just what we have to do. I think I mentioned, seismic monitoring last week, and we just cleared a lot. I've got to tear down a house this next week, but we even had to get a permit, get this, for temporary construction fence. So when you drive by a commercial job site, a lot of times they have a construction chain link fence around it to keep people out, mainly, and make sure nobody loots it and tweakers.
Especially in Seattle.
Yeah. Make sure the tweakers don't steal stuff. Here, you have to do that, but it's not so much because there's job site theft, but they make you do that and then you have to wrap it with this dark green kind of a cloth to so you can't see inside of it. So it's supposed to prevent it from being an eyesore and then also block any dust. I over by Jimmy's house, in Arizona, I remember when I drove to that neighborhood, I forget what it's called. What's that neighborhood called?
He's in Arcadia.
Yeah, Arcadia. A lot of the builders did that. And maybe they required them to, maybe they didn't, but they actually had their logos on the wrap that went around the fencing. So they were real fancy about it. But so anyway, I got to get a permit to put that fence up. And then they actually come out and inspect a chain link fence that you put up that's a temporary chain link fence before I can then have my demo permit released to me to tear down the house. So there's all this just crazy stuff. It sounds boring, but it's nuanced and it's kind of brain damage. But once you get it down, then it gets easy, just like getting permits as an investor for, maybe you got to replace an electrical panel or something simple like that, right?
I was actually out in Arcadia over the weekend at Jimmy's house. Kate and I went out there and I was asking him where he's finding the most opportunity right now. And usually his answer is we're doing this to find extra off-market deals or blah, blah, blah. And he was literally just 90% of the deals they're buying right now are off the MLS. And he's saying he gave an example of one of the ones recently, which is a huge rip. And he presented it to his group and they're like, oh man, you're getting all these discounted deals and none of us have access to. And he was like, you guys, this deal sat on the market for 120 days. I then came in and paid them list price and got a little over list price and got the deal done. And I think it kind of hit me of a lot of people find any reason not to get started, not to buy deals. But again, 90% of his inventory right now that they're selling off to investors and buying themselves, sites that they're developing, luxury flips are off the MLS right now, just on property that's been sitting for a long time that people don't want to dig deep in. And one of the examples was one of the homes that had some flooding. And so they had fixed the source of the issue, but they hadn't redone all the damage from the issue. And he said everyone was turning it down because in their head it was, oh, the source isn't fixed. But he asked the question, okay, what was the source of the flooding? Is it fixed? And then he's like, oh, I could easily deal with the damage it did. And that scared everyone off. And I think there's a lot of opportunity out there right now on and off market. But for you guys that are sitting there going, man, these guys that I see online are ripping, they're doing so well because they're finding deals that I can't find. It's usually not the case. It's usually they're spending a little more time.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, the thing you got to remember is that, like, where are we in the real estate cycle, right? So, like, when it's like hot as balls, good luck finding anything that even smells like a deal on the MLS, right? Like, you're going to overpay for anything you buy there, whether you're paying retail or whether you're buying something that needs work. You're probably going to way overpay if you're going to buy something that needs work, because that's where all the dream chasers go to try and fish something off of. When the market softens and real estate isn't quite as in vogue, it's like all of a sudden all these dream chasers disappear, but these shitty properties are still on the market, right? And they're harder to sell too. And so, like, just like Jimmy did. I mean, the house that we're tearing down, I bought that one on market. It was listed for a lot more money. I offered them a ridiculous price. It was cash, and I said I'd close whenever, and they took it. There was a little bit of glad handing I did in the middle. I went and met with the listing agent and kind of played a little patty cake on site, and gave them a little background on me and just told them, look, I'm not wasting your time, and blah blah blah. And they didn't even counter me; they just took it. So, there is a lot of opportunity on market. It isn't always that way, but right now is a great time for that, especially when you get into like the higher end stuff, because there's so few people that are actually doing it in most markets compared to the lower end. The lower end, there's still a lot of people trying to, pick stuff off and buy things. But in the higher end, it really slows down when the market slows.
Yeah, I think there's two things. The awareness of where we're at in the market cycle, but also just having the years of becoming a master of something. Because then you know what questions to ask, and you find deals other people just pass on. Again, 90% of his inventory is coming from deals that he has the confidence to buy just because he's been doing it so long. And so for you guys that are listening, if you, like so many people, they just jump year after year, every 2 years, every 3 years, they jump to the next thing, and you never get good enough to find those opportunities that most people pass on. So kind of leads us into one of the topics I want to talk about today on today's show, which is we've recently slightly changed what we do at Easy Button Leads, where we now call it the deal engine, which we've just realized over time that leads aren't enough for people. They need leads and the coaching to convert those leads. And so the first guy we brought onto the coaching team, he ran an acquisitions company up to $4 million a year, and just a genius when it comes to working cold call leads and other leads. And I wanted to dive into a few different concepts that have been true across most clients, whether they've done 100 deals before they get to us, they've done 3 deals before they get to us. And that is just like the gross neglect of pipelines everywhere, whether it's on or off market leads, whether you guys are doing mail, pay-per-click, Facebook ads, just seeing, now that we have someone challenging all of our clients daily on this, just seeing what an incredible difference, small changes and working your pipeline. And one of the first things that we identified is just simply like how you categorize leads when they come into your pipeline. And one of the exercises we're giving all of our clients right now, we're just calling it, and it seems simple, but hot, warm, cold, and where you spend your time every single day. And the number one exercise we're giving people, and one of the things when you work with us, we hold you accountable to what's in the contract. And one of the things that's in the contract is you have to actually work your leads. And so what we're giving everyone right now is a 4-hour time block on your calendar that you spend just working those 3 buckets in your pipeline. And and ignoring all the notes, ignoring what the lead says, ignoring what the recording sounds like from a cold call, ignoring what the pay-per-click note says from your pay-per-click ads that you're running, and just spending time on the phone. And what we're finding right now, like real data, are investor clients that are just investors are doing a deal every about 50 leads they get from us. Our agent clients that are just agents are doing a deal about every 40 leads they get from us. We call them investor agents. Our clients that are both investors and agents are doing a deal. They're transacting one time out of every 30 leads we send to them. So it goes to show you guys, there's a lot of, even with the market cycle, there's a lot of deals happening right now, but it's the smallest little changes that can mean all the difference. And a lot of you guys are trying to make massive changes all the time. And there's a quote I heard this week that I love, which is, anytime you make a massive change in your business, you have to expect a 20% reduction in revenue. And if you guys are making those every 3 months, changing exit strategies, changing marketing channels, changing focus, you never get out of the hole. So that's something I want to dive into, Doug. I don't know, was whatever's top of mind for you on that topic. I know we've spent a lot of time, you and I and our leadership team, refining this and trying to bring people something that turns them into acquisition companies, not just, hey, here's some leads.
Yeah, I think it's the absolute most important part of this whole off-market process, right? Is being able to kind of, well, what was the quote? Your quote was, a good one. I just believe in being very good at very simple, simple things, be very good at them, right? And so like a simple thing is, okay, lead comes in, I don't care what it says. We would always do like a quick underwrite on the property, the underlying mortgage, how long they've owned it, stuff like that before we'd ever call, right? So like we can kind of get the bare bones of like the financials of it, the condition of it from, Google Street View and whatever else we can pull up in terms of like code violation, things like that within the municipality that it's at. So we can kind of get a little bit of a better, is it just some little old lady that lives there by herself that's owned it free and clear for 30 years? Or is it somebody that inherited it from their parents that died 5 years ago and the place has gone to shit since then and they pulled out a reverse mortgage on it already and whatever else, right? Who knows? So like underwriting your leads are important. But then the second aspect to that is the conversations that you have with these people to kind of fill the gaps, right? Like when we would do our initial underwrite, it'd be like, okay, I think this is what's going on based on what I can see on paper. The lead came in initially, they wanted retail, whatever. None of that really matters at that point, right? Like I'm trying to figure out what it really is. And then you call them back and then you start to unpack these things with them. You start to talk to them. And of course, rapport building is a big part of that to be able to get the answers to those questions and kind of fill in those gaps. But that's what working leads are, right? That's what if, and we used to do it all day, every day we had people dedicated doing it. So I'm glad that we give people a dedicated amount of time that they're supposed to work those leads no matter what. But I mean, that's your highest value skill or the time that the highest value place you can spend time during the day as an acquisition company.
And I've been amazed how much time people spend in tactics, right? They go from course to course, mastermind to mastermind, guru to guru, podcast to podcast, trying to learn tactics, which is the perfect sales process. And sales process does play a part in how you work leads, but it's a tactic in terms of how they underwrite. Do I do 70% of ARV minus rehab, or do I do what Thatch says? Do I do what Ryan Pineda says? Or they spend time on their software, right? What CRM they use, what AI list they're going after, what skip tracing company they use, or they go after, do I make 3 cold calls and text twice? Do I make 3 cold calls and email 4 times? And they spend so much time in tactic, focused on tactics, when the reality is 95% of it's reps. And that's really what we try to boil down for the people that we work with is you have to really, if you want to get good at acquisitions, and again, real estate is a market cycle game. So right now, yes, you can go find some deals on MLS. Most people still aren't even doing that because they don't have time in the seat. They aren't confident. But there's going to be a time that comes pretty soon when rates start to come down, when if you guys have an acquisition system, you're going to win, because that's when everyone starts buying everything. That's when the onesie, twosies, newbies that just want to tell their friends they're house flippers can come back, buy a house, sit on it for 90, 120 days and make 30, 50 grand. And you can start really maximizing deals and making offers, and your lead to contract will get lower than it probably has been in a couple of years. And that when I came in the business myself, as we got to kind of COVID printing money time, we went from probably a 1 in 60 to like a 1 in 25 because of what buyers were willing to pay. And so if you can master this skill right now, and a lot of it is just ignoring what comes into your CRM, whether it's recordings, notes, whatever it is, and just spending time and realizing if you play on a 12-month timeline and you nurture a lead the right way with the right work ethic, and you build a team around that and do the simple things like Tucker just said, you make money. And that's what we're really trying to drive home at Easy Button Leads. Because the reality is, you guys, like there's a million lead generation companies. And do I think we do a lot of things different and better than them? Absolutely. But the reality is, a lead is a lead. There's only so much you can do with a lead. You can find out their social security number, you can find out their credit score, where they live, what they like. There's only so much you can do. It comes down to just the basics of spending time on the phone, spending time in living rooms. And that's really one of the first message I wanted to drive home today is you'd be surprised how many people come to us right now. We have a family office who's buying millions and millions of dollars of single family per year. And they think that acquisitions in real estate is they get a lead in and they call them one time, and that person has a price that's $300,000 below market value.
Wouldn't that be great?
They send a DocuSign. That's and they're incredibly intelligent people.
Yeah, they're not dumb. No.
Yeah.
But it just people have this misconception that like everything is going to be low hanging fruit if you're talking to people off market, right? Like, and that's just not the reality. But back to your point that, you know, at the risk of aging myself, you know, when I started to master this skill, it was 09, 10, 11. And then by
just coming out of 08.
Yeah. By 13, 14, the market started to rip all the way across the country, right? There were pockets that picked up a little bit before then, but it started ripping everywhere. And by that point, I mean, we were killing it, just being able to go direct to seller and finding these deals that nobody else could find, or that this whole new group of people got into it when the market picked up again. And then they tried to learn the game that we had been kind of fine tuning over the last 3+ years of doing it. And it just puts you in a great spot. So, I mean, honestly, I think it's a fantastic time to really, you know, hone in on your craft and learn how to, you know, generate, acquire off-market leads and deals. Because if you can do that, when it turns, like you said, I mean, then everybody's buying real estate again. And guess what? Not everybody knows how to do this off-market lead generation, you know, deal generation business. They don't. And so you then are in the driver's seat. And so, you know, we're kind of, it goes, you know, business goes up and down like this in terms of, you know, who's got the most leverage. But right now, it's just a great time because you're still going to get amazing deals off market. You'll probably get better deals now than you will in the future. You'll just be able to realize the equity profit to a higher extent in the future as the market gets hotter than right now most of the time. So people should definitely be taking advantage of that, in my opinion. And it sounds, you know, you did a part of that too. You hit a little lull cycle before it popped again.
Yeah.
Because there's been a couple little lulls, but like this has probably been next to the, you know, real estate collapse, and it wasn't like that at all, but like a sustained lull, let's call it, before it picks up again.
I mean, I personally knew a lot of flippers that aren't flipping houses right now that would buy a house, you know, and essentially they'd fix it up. But really what they were doing is they just buying a house and owning it for 4 months and selling it and making 70 grand. And those times will come back. Maybe not. I mean, I don't know if we're going to see 2%, 2.5%, 3% interest rates, right, in the near future. But even if they come down to the fives, I think, you know, mid-low fives where it really starts to get fun again. Again, like an example of this is we have a client, Brandon Evans, who's in Salt Lake City, Utah, and he was a career salesperson for Vivint, and so he was selling security systems. He's been doing it for a long time. He was one of their probably higher earners, mid 6 figures. And he wanted to start real estate, and he started with us. He's been with us 8 months now. He's on his second contract with us, and he's at an 11x return on ad spend, and a 1 in 30 leads to a contract. And his whole process is he does 2 things right now. One, he has 5 agents with us, so he's getting, call it 7 to 10 good leads a day. And he just blocks out 6 to 8 hours a day, and he just calls them. He doesn't look at the notes. He doesn't care what the notes say, what the recording sounds like. He just gets on the phone and hammers them day in and day out. And then what he does now too is he goes to his buddies and says, "Hey, you guys are flippers or agents. Pay this company for leads, and I'll work your leads for you." And that opportunity is out there for everyone. So I mean, it's not rocket science. I mean, he's not the highest IQ person. Like, he's not going to build you a CRM, and he doesn't care about that stuff. And to me, the guy like that, once the market turns, is going to crush it. And so if you guys can really get your feet wet, and even the people that have done, I think the hardest thing is when someone's done 50 deals, there's an ego that comes with it. And I think you don't want to have to think about something new or building a new skill or sucking at something again.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I mean, that's, you know, what we're trying to help people with now at Easy Button Leads is turn them into somebody like Brandon that, you know, knows what they're doing, knows how to navigate those conversations, knows how to, you know, try and convert as many of those leads as possible. But one other thing I wanted to mention, just in terms of like where we're at in the cycle, and you said when things get in the 5s again, it gets real fun. Think about this. This is a little nuance that I haven't heard anybody talk about, but it's super important on a larger scale. So back when real estate went buck wild and crazy in like 2005, 6, 7, there were a lot of what they call stated income loans, right? Which were a little bit crazy because they went to like 100% loan to value. Your credit score could be dog shit. You could still get them. I was in the mortgage business. So there was a lot of nuances to it that were not done correctly, but there were some that were definitely done correctly. Well, now we've got these debt service coverage loans, right? And they're great loans. And as rates go down, guess what rates on those are going to do? They're going to go down too. And so you're going to get a lot more people that can more easily finance rental real estate at significantly lower rates as we move forward into the future with very little, if any, income documentation, just basically credit score and a rental appraisal, right? And that is a huge catalyst to our market as we kind of turn out of this downturn and kind of go back to an uptick, in my opinion. So just another reason to really master this, because you'll be slanging a lot of houses to people that are getting cheap debt service coverage loans to put in their portfolio and use tax deductions or cash flow or whatever it is.
I think one of the things too that I was reading a Redfin article about how every single year more and more sellers are looking for other avenues to sell their home than listing. And I remember Matt Julinos, who worked with us for a while. I was talking to him today, and he, one of his buddies who is an employee at Google, talked about how a lot of real estate companies are putting they're paying Uber drivers $20. They're paying Amazon drivers $20 to put one of their cameras on their dashboard as they drive around neighborhoods all day. And they feed it into AI, and it ranks the condition of the property as it drives by. And there's so much coming, guys, in way of getting better at targeting these homes tactically, that if you guys can build the skill, it's the number one skill to build is talking to sellers, getting reps in there. Even you look at like one of the things that I was fascinating this week is Compass is starting, the big brokerage is scaling like crazy across the country. They're starting to advocate and pivot to a private listing platform, where if you're a Compass agent, you list your home, it only goes to other Compass agents for a certain amount of time. And I think as these things happen, you guys, there's going to be a lot more sellers that want to explore their options, right? And it's attractive as it sounds. If every brokerage starts limiting who gets to see their listings just to other brokers a part of that same brokerage, it just gives you more ammo to be able to negotiate. So I think as rates come down and people have started to realize a little more about the very archaic way that our industry works, right? We had obviously the lawsuit and the settlement around buyer's agents fees already. You have regulation coming around that's going to knock a lot of newbies out of the game. I think it's a very exciting time to be in the investment space right now, and especially as regular. I think if you're a serious investor, agent, wholesaler, I think most of the as much I'm against regulation for the most part, but a lot of the stuff coming out is going to benefit you if you have a little bit of your wits about you, and you can go get a license, which I think is going to be required in most places. I think it's going to be the best time ever. The next time the rates come down, like you're saying, I think it's going to be the best time ever to be in this game in terms of opportunity, because so many people have gone and switched careers and probably aren't going to come. And if they do come back, it'll be late in the cycle.
Yeah, it's definitely a great time to do it, no question. And I was reading an article. There was like 6 new startups, real estate startups, and that's the other thing too. All these crazy like real estate ideas are going to get tons of money pumped into them as the market comes back too. So you're going to get all of this, venture capital money that thinks each one of these is a great idea. But I read on 6 of them that are basically like different platforms and ways for sellers to sell their houses other than your traditional way of doing it. Now, personally, I think all 6 of them will fail after reading about it, because I just don't think they're great ideas. But there's still money behind it. There's people pushing it. There's people that believe in them. And, all that's going to do is just further kind of muddy the waters with sellers like, well, how should I do this? And the simplest way to clear their mind on how they should do it is just a direct conversation, right? To be able to talk to people, because at the end of the day, real estate is a people business. And so if you can get in front of the right avatar that should be selling to somebody like you or an investor that's off market versus having some sort of an agent or platform in the middle, all you got to do is just have a great conversation with that person and you're off to the races, right? And it's very simple. Then they're like, oh, I like that guy or their company. I'll stick with them before I go into these muddy waters of all this stuff and platforms that I could go on to try and sell the house that's not just calling a realtor anymore. So it's going to be a very confusing time for sellers, which I think will benefit us tremendously. Yeah.
The more people, the bigger companies confuse sellers, the easier it is to go in as a small business and kind of their confidant and take their hand and lead them to a transaction that obviously benefits both parties. So that's kind of the point of I was trying to make was the more complicated it gets for them, and the more they feel like these brokerages care more about themselves than they do the seller, which the private listing thing that only benefits Compass. That does not benefit limiting your distribution of your property to less people does not help you get a higher price.
No, they're trying to recruit agents. Be like, hey, this is why you'd be a great, they should hire you because you have access to these properties nobody else does, right? But that doesn't really serve the person whose property that they're listing, right? So
the problem is,
yeah, go ahead.
They're all tech companies that are venture backed and have to find ways to increase their users, which is agents, and so they're doing things that do that, but that does not put sellers in a good place.
No, it's just. That's why I read on 6 of them and I was like, well, they didn't really curate these ideas very well with somebody that's been in the real estate business for a long time. They just had a lot of yes men and a lot of people with too much money to put into an idea that they think might turn into something big. And maybe I'm wrong, but I mean, I've been in this business a long time. I read through them. None of them, I was like, wow, that's a really good idea, right? I was like, Yeah.
It was kind of like Modus, which was like the company Compass bought, which is like the blockchain title and escrow. And I think they didn't think through, like most sellers aren't going to log onto a portal and upload their documents onto a portal and then submit. Like they have to be reminded 8 times by a real estate agent to submit anything, right? So I think a lot of these companies are trying to be smarter than their avatar is, which is someone selling a residential property. So as we head to the end here, I think the things that we hit on today that are very valuable are one, staying in what you're doing for long enough and understand you're going to go through cycles. Those are going to be periods you make more money than others. That's okay. But if you keep digging in those periods where it's, rates come down, investor and retail sentiment goes up and it gets easy, you're positioned to take advantage of those times and you can build wealth in those times. And you go meet anyone that's built a significant wealth in real estate. So a lot of it happens in 3 to 6 month sprints when the market gets really good and they're positioned to buy an asset at the right time. So I'm super excited for what's to come. Again, you guys out there, I think right now, dig in, build this skill of sales. And two call-outs I do have today. If you are in a position where you really want to dive into improving that's included at Easy Button Leads as part of what we do now. And if you guys aren't in a position to spend a bunch of money on it, we have a ton of resources plus 500 other people in our school community that you can join below the show in the show notes. So you can jump in, get access to a live call with myself, Q&A every week, and 500 other agents and investors at all skill level that are growing their business here in 2025. So Tucker, I'll kick it off to you as we wrap and then we'll outro.
Yeah. I mean, I think what we're building here to try and really help people master the art of sales when it comes to off-market deals. It's the golden key. I mean, at the end of the day, that's really what it is to making this not just, a hobby, but like a really successful business for yourself long-term, and not being a pond skimmer, as I always call it, and just taking it serious and being a real business owner. So I can't harp on that enough because I've seen it so many times, but that's exactly what we created here. And that's why we're doing it. It's because we want to actually help you guys stay in the business long-term and be that successful pillar business in your city, market, whatever, in the investment space.
Yep. Don't be a pond skimmer.
That's right.
Oh, cool, guys. Well, wherever you listen to podcasts, Spotify, Apple, anywhere else, we are there. Make sure you like the show. Give us a review. That means the world. We don't grow through paid promotion. We only grow through you guys and our email list and just the brand that we've built in the space. So as always, share with a friend. And until next episode, you're only one deal away.